7 o'clock, it all starts going, and that's where a lot of people are watching. So on YouTube, I don't ever have to share or whatever. You know, I'm just welcome everybody to YouTube Live. We're getting ready here. We're at Midwest Spirits. Hey, take a picture of what's on the wall. You can. We got Roxy on the camera for all you people in India, in the United States, in Indonesia, and this is gonna. We're live from Midwest Spirits with Brian Lang. We're gonna get going in a sec. I can't wait to be able to drink some. This is gonna be awesome. Ryan has, everybody on Facebook also welcome, but Ryan has 100% built a beam-sized distillery. It's amazing. So we're almost getting ready to go. Pizza delivery. Pizza delivery. Awesome. Well, and that's one thing, Ryan, for the people real quick that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you. I mean, you're building you've been in the distilling industry. You've built a craft distillery. You got through that whole waiting period on your craft distillery, and right as you were there and you were distilling, you built this.
That's right.
Which is amazing. I mean, when we first came down, and you're like, it's me, and I'm just like, I've been at so many other different distilleries, and it's what you're doing and how much time and effort and what your vision is. It's like, and you know, like you said, right now, the distilling that's happening here, we just took a tour and it's amazing. And you just have these giant cookers, you've got the giant fermenters, you've got everything. It's like, this is the big boys game, right? On the bottom level of the big boys, right? But you're there. I mean, that's the volume here is just, you know, you have that capacity. And then we were talking about, you know, just building the aging palletized warehouses that you're putting in, and it's like every year you just never stop building.
It never stops.
But I mean, even I don't know too much, like, but even in Kentucky, it seems like they're using builders to keep building the whole thing in the control, and it's very unique and exciting. You know, I mean, this is awesome.
It's been a long road. It's been a good journey. So we're back.
Now talking to you now.
By the way, it's not just me.
Of course, your team over like right now, you've got it set up, but those people are doing it. You know, you're the owner operator. But you know, what master distiller at a big distillery is actually hands-on distilling. They're usually the base. They're traveling. They're signing bottles and whatever. You know, Fred. They do have overseeing of operation, and you definitely, if there's a problem, your distillers are coming to you. But the whole thing and how it's going, they really, as you keep going now, it's been running for a year and a half.
New place.
The people here are starting to get the feel of it, right? I mean,
very much so.
Most of the people here went through all the fun of opening up a big, big distillery. Yeah, yes. I mean, we got to be here when it was being built and constructed. There wasn't a still. Your vision you had it in your head, and you had the offices, which was great, and the whole thing. But the grounds, even now, there's a lot of areas that was all under construction area because it's all like cleaned up and now, and you're getting this, and then you've got the B and C plans, and hopefully that keeps going. And you know, it's like it's exciting, but at the same time, I just going there. I was just looking at it when we came the second time, and you were getting ready and everything was being installed, but it wasn't quite there. And I'm just going, I work with one baler that deals in hydraulics, and the amount of O-rings I mean, everything's automated, which is fantastic, the control you have. We'll get into that a little bit as we go. But at the same time, getting that to start running, and then you're dealing with pressures and everything, it's just, and then it's so big.
There are a lot of challenges with something like that. In any place you build out, pumps, motors, drives, gaskets. Inevitably, everything fails at least once. So you just have to be ready to repair.
Well, my favorite is you go through these time periods, like even myself as a plant manager, you got 2-3 months, right, where everybody's kind of trained up, and they're actually doing. You go, wow, I was going to tell them to do that, but they didn't. You know what I mean? But then you're also going in your head, well, enjoy it now because in 2-3 months later, it probably is. There's going to be, it changes. You know, people go, come, whatever, but the one consistent that's always going to be here pretty much at the moment is you.
And myself and some other guys that have been here for 10 years and learned the system at the smaller facility, and we're able to translate it to the larger facility because you want them to match. You don't want to have stuff that's not similar. So bringing that knowledge base over, it took a little bit. It didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. It only took about a month to get tracking to having the same distillate off the still over there and still here. But yeah, the team is morphed, but we've got guys here that have been here for 8-9 years now. So they know it really well.
That's and honestly, that's a testament to you guys. Look, I mean, you like we were talking. You learned on the pot still, then you went to the column still, then you went to the column still 24/7, and now you've built something that's amazing. Especially, I'm so glad I'm in Ohio. I'm proud of it. You know, it's just like it's you're putting down whiskey and you're putting into a legacy. You know what I mean? This you build something that's going to last for a long, long time.
That's the hope.
Yeah. Well, yes, that's the hope. But I think that you put it in the way that to make that happen. You know.
Yeah, it's a different vision. It's a longer vision. It's a more expensive vision. But it's our path, and it's going to take another 10-15 years to see what we want to happen. So
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's get this audio going. I'll just start the recording. Here we go. That's all working. Yeah. So what's going to happen is there's a 30-second spot, then you'll hear the music, and then we'll go. And then we're on the clock.
Make sure that L's in there.
Taking 30 seconds in my stars. In a while, it's your fun spot. Whoever you would think, and the girls, and the songs, like a potato tree. And yeah, it's like you let me go. It's you have, it's something more. Yeah, it's like you let me go. When you get that line, go.
All right, welcome back to another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. This is a special podcast because I'm here with Ryan Lane, the owner-operator of Midwest Spirits. We're at his, what do you call this distillery?
It's our Allen Creek facility.
The Allen Creek facility. So now he's got different facilities.
Yes.
Now, the restaurant at the old place still open?
It is. Yeah, service bar. Yeah, that's the Portland plant with service bar. It's still running.
Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic, but it's like kind of cool having two different, we started out initially, over there, and you told me this was going to happen, but, we've been with you every step, so
yeah,
it's just,
everything from the beginning.
Yeah, and it's exciting. I mean, the one thing I got to say is that it's just probably about a year ago when we were here, and the year's gone by so fast. I mean, we've kind of talked in between a little bit and just, just texting back and forth and setting stuff up, but I just can't believe how fast time actually does go to get to this point. Now, it probably went a little bit slower for you,
Yes.
There was some days that you probably wish were speeding up when you're starting to open up a facility as big as this, but let's get right into it. What is the capacity of this place at current of what you're doing?
It's large.
I'll
You
give
know
you
me.
that. No, and that's why I asked you the question, that's what it is, but it's large, so you have all this, what you're doing, and then the Middle West Spirits, it's already an established brand on the shelf, right? Especially here in Ohio. It's been there for a while. Now you said you're in 45.
We're 45 states currently. Yeah, and working on a couple other countries as well. So
Okay.
yeah, it's grown quite a bit. I would say during COVID, we saw most of the growth, believe it or not, like year one of COVID, it just opened up, like the market started opening up. And, last year was obviously a challenge for everybody, but the distribution base grew quickly. We were in 7 markets, really only selling in 3 or 4 prior to that, and then as our stock started aging out, and we had volume to start putting in the market, it was a lot easier to start to go state to state. So,
Which is interesting, how you do go about this. There's not a lot of distilleries in Ohio that are, this is not the standard, but this has the volume right here to now you have pretty much when you were doing that and you're building, now you have the backup. Now you're definitely going to do the volume you're talking. Now I will say, based off of your Michelangelo, your base Middle West Spirits, it's international. I mean, I look at the label, and it does make sense to get into other countries.
Yeah.
There's not that much you really have to change, except maybe their culture. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, you talk to someone from Australia, and it's Jim Beam, but it's not technically bourbon anymore because they usually put their spirits out at 70, whatever.
yeah, they drop the proof, they make adjustments to it for sure.
Right, and it's based off of market. It's
Yeah.
smart. I mean, it was bourbon until they dropped the proof. So yeah, you got to, and that's when you're getting into those markets, you really do have to do the intricacies for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, every market's different, and you have to understand the palates are different as well. So you do have to make adjustments as you're going international, and most of those guys know. And the crazy thing is like American whiskeys, rye whiskeys, bourbons primarily, their reach beyond our borders are limited. They're not very deep into those other markets yet, so the opportunity is pretty sizable. Predominantly, Scotch is drives most of those sales. So the opportunity is there. It just takes time because the palate's different. This is more of a sweeter product than what Scotch is. So
Definitely.
you are going against that headwind, but
It's the dessert.
it is.
It's a dessert whiskey, not a.
That's what I call it.
I mean, you're talking caramels, vanillas, I think I did actually, darling, Roxy's with us today. I did bring something for us to taste.
Okay.
It's in the green bag, and you should grab that out. It's the little, it's over there on the chair. And then there's also my gift to Ryan. Okay. Because this is, let's see, there is 8 out of, I have 8, so 16 people are in, you're gonna be the 16th person.
Okay.
So there is this, which I want you to taste. This is 1981. This was at Revival. She bought it for me for my birthday. But this right here is a Scotchy Bourbon Boys Crystal Blend. We give this to friends of the podcast, and you're definitely a friend of the podcast. I just order, every time I do an order, I order 6, and then usually I have the club that someone, there's certain levels that you can buy into, but all the distillers and everything and the people that help us out and are good to us, I'd love to give that out.
That's great.
It's a great one. I love the
That's awesome. We love Martin. So
yeah, oh yeah. He's
everybody
great.
loves Martin.
But before we get into your stuff,
Let's
do
do it.
you have an extra glass?
I have one.
Let me
grab one. Take me 1 second.
Yeah, this is the 1981 old. Just so you bought this for me. I didn't even know how you got this out without me knowing.
I'm sneaky.
You're sneaky.
I'm a trickster.
I can't believe it. Now, you've had it, right? I've given you a sip of this.
Yes, one time, a very small.
It's,
I will reciprocate.
oh.
Oh,
Thank you.
nice.
So now we're doing, yes, there we go. All right, so.
Thank you, Mark.
I gotta save some for Nash, because I promised
I'm
them.
not believing you found it. Let me see that one.
It's just,
Amazing.
it's 1981.
His 60th birthday present.
This is the stuff I love about this category.
But I've had so many different Dusties, okay? But I just want you to nose that Dusty. It's insane.
It doesn't
I know.
taste like a Dusty.
The caramel butterscotch, it almost smells like a butterscotch.
Wow, that's something.
I mean, it's the,
81, where is that name? It's insane.
I think it's Frankfurt. It says
Frankfurt.
and it's, it's 86 proof.
Is this the old Castle Key? The old Taylor?
I don't know. I haven't done.
That'd be interesting to find
Where it was actually. I don't know. There's so many different places with this. I mean, Beam had this, and that's Trace was able to get it from Beam. So it could be it could be the Frankfurt facility, which I now know for Beam makes whatever Basil Hayden. Yes, but it could have been there. That's what I was thinking.
See, this is the history of the category. Like everything. And look at that.
It's a screw top with, and it's like
a tamper proof.
Oh, it was. I broke the seal. I'm so glad because I think this is what. It's so good. It's like, what did they do to make that? Must be the corn. That's
Just to have that in a bottle is fantastic. That's something else.
and it's like when I get stuff like this, it's one thing. Well, I could just let it get older and older, but it's
No, you
they
gotta
put it in that
separate,
bottle.
it will be.
They definitely put it in this bottle so that people would drink it.
Oh yeah, that's you don't want to let that oxidate.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's nice. Where did you find it? Like an auction or something?
No, this is some Revival with Brad Bonds, which is right at his place is in the Covington Hotel, and he just does vintage spirits, and now he's got a bar and everything. I mean, he would love to have you down there. That's what he does. He just
bottle in there. When we were there, and
That's a nice gift.
the perfect
gift. Oh,
present.
nice and tasty, man.
Yeah.
It was good to start off with, right? All right. So,
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Pretty neat. It's awesome.
I would say that when we first, it's been a little bit when we came down, at the other place, we were tasting your stuff. Talk about now what's in your bottle here. We were talking about it, and I can't wait because I'm excited.
Yeah. So at the end of last year for the holiday, we released cash strength and everything. Obviously, to do that, because of the volume reduction from your barrel dose, you have to have the volume to do that. And I don't know what you categorize this as. Everybody tries to say we're indie or whatever. Reality is we don't buy and blend. We're making everything from scratch here. We control all of our agriculture. We're managing 25, 30,000 acres of growth here to make our products, and have been doing it for a very long time. And now we're getting to the point where the stock that we laid up over the years, the volumes are getting large enough for us to actually do not just cash strength in like a barrel, which we did for a while, single barrel cash strength. Now we can actually do a permanent lineup of cash strength. So every state that we're distributed in, if the distributor can take the series, we have the volume to support, which was very difficult because it takes a long time to build it up. So you have your base lineup, and then adding in a full cash strength series now on top of that has been it's taken a long time. And this stuff is all getting much older, and there could be some changes going down the road too. So we're looking at some different bottle profiles and stuff like that. But we're really happy that you're able to launch this over the holiday season, and it went really well.
Well, I always find that there's different brands, and sometimes you hear stories like on one brand we would never change it, and then you find out the reason why they never change it because they're doing a 5 or 6 year, And because when they age it a little bit further, it's actually a different brand. It's the same distillate, but just aged different. So there's so much you can do as you go along. You're getting to that point, but at the same time, I'm excited that now you've got. I've tasted some really good 4 and 5-year-old bourbons.
Yeah.
They might, but then you work with the distiller and you go and you start tasting the 7 and 8-year-olds, and it's night and day. You know what I mean? The barrel's starting to. Now it does come down to people don't really understand, especially you're distilling your own stuff. But when you do a brand, one, consistency a lot of times I felt was the most important thing forever. It was the hardest thing for any distillery to do.
It is.
But now, once we probably in like the early 2000s, consistency became with start of automation and whatever, consistency got a lot more consistent for a brand. And instead of everybody being boring and just putting the same thing out, which that is a big part of any market. There's no doubt there are people who, the big part of that, 80% of that whiskey market, they want, when they buy that bottle, they want it to keep tasting the same. But when you taste something from 1980, like we just did, and you taste something now, it can slowly evolve into something else. There's no doubt.
I Taylor over there from today does not taste like that.
No. So right, exactly. The corn all changes, the mass of whatever. I mean,
Environment.
but
Aging, everything.
But I think even from 2017, 18, when I first started getting into this, to now, I really feel a lot of brands have gotten a little bit sweeter and they're a little bit better because of whatever the reason is, as far as I think the aging aspect of this area of the United States might be a little bit warmer. You know, you get whatever, and you still get the cold. And I think just it's been ideal for the last 8-9 years for aging whiskey. So then a lot of times, you know, you have barrels that don't, this is what my question is going to be.
Yeah.
You get the barrels that aren't the extreme winners, you know what I mean? Because it's all different. You have all different levels, and a lot of people would then make their small batch and blend them all so it tastes consistent, but it's not their higher end stuff, what they're doing. But talk about the aspect of blending, because people don't realize, even though it's the same distillate and it's being put in the same barrel maker's barrels, when you get to it, you get hot barrels, you get bland barrels, and as a blender of a brand, that's very important to use them all, correct? I mean,
yeah, you do, and that is a huge challenge, and it's one that we're constantly working on. You know, it's training people to do it, training people to do selections, training people to put the blends together, how you blend them, how you're adding water to the blend before you do filtration, what filtration you're using. There are a lot of variables that go into those selections, and you know, we're ever evolving that as well. We want to get better all the time. We're constantly pushing the barrel profile. We're constantly pushing because your grain profiles will sunset. So as you put something in the ground that's your choice for that specific type of grain, it has 7 to 10 years, and then you have to go to the next product, and the next product, and the next product. So you're constantly looking at that. I mean, every selection is important, and blending is terribly important for what you're trying to do, because they are. I mean, we can have the same run, the same barrels, from the same tree production, same skin, same position in the facility, same age, and you try the two and they're nowhere near each other. And that's pretty consistent. The one thing that is consistent is it will be inconsistent. It'll be inconsistent off the spill, mash to mash to mash to mash. It'll be inconsistent out of the barrel. It's the job of the blenders to put those together to make sure that, you know, batch 1 of this is going to match batch 8 as we start putting this out in the market. And yeah, that's something we're constantly pushing the needle on and constantly educating ourselves on. And there are people who do really well out there. So we're fortunate we work with a couple guys that are very helpful in that matter.
well, plus you have your grain, the grain is being produced for you to make these. You know, you basically work with local farmers, but people don't actually realize it's never talked about like it is in wine. There are better yields of better corn from year to year. If there was a drought in the middle, the corn's different, and and you are getting those, and you do evaporate and put it in, But you know, when all you gotta do is taste your white dog off the still, and you can tell compared to other white dogs what detail that you're putting into it. You've got it covered on all the different levels.
Yeah, I mean, if you can brew well and get to a point that what comes off the still is ready, as a white dog, very consumable, balanced, and everything, you got half of it taken care of. Then the barrel comes in and it's applying a ton of extra flavor and material and time and how you manage that and how you wash the casks and all that kind of stuff. Very, very critical. But yeah, you've got a whole ton of the flavor coming in, yeast, water, grain. And yeah, you're right. We can buy corn from Northern Ohio versus Southern Ohio. Same strain from what we plant, and you take and you run a wash off of them, and they're different. So yeah, it's very important to know that stuff. We try to control as much as we can on the grain side because it's the beginning of everything.
Well, and same thing when you're doing your runs. The grain gets grown and then it gets processed and then it sits in silos and you have a whole winter. We're not growing corn in the Midwest and during that, but you still need corn, correct? So
You do.
that's very important that that's all being processed. And they're good at it. I mean, but at the same time, I've heard many kind of things when you get to the end and you're starting the new growing season, you're trying to distill.
It can be stale.
You could be
Or some mold can grow in the
you could be
silo.
rejecting loads of corn.
Yeah, I mean, we have guys that do that. I mean, we're monitoring the materials coming in. We bake our rye when it comes in. We actually do something with it so we know if it's good or not, if it's not carrying any issues, fungus. So yeah, there's a ton of considerations. There's the bottom of the silos, you get a lot of waste, so a lot of the chaff falls to the bottom of the silos. So when the load comes in, we have big cleaners over here, so we run everything through cleaners, and you'll know the cleaning bin just gets completely full. So yeah, there are considerations on all. We can't control everything, but at least if you know what's going on, you can at least try to make what's coming off the still as good as it could be. So then by the time it hits the barrel, then that half's done, then you go focus on the rest, which is how are what your barrels like, how many dry aging seasons are you going through, where are they in the warehouse, what are the temperature changes in the warehouse, and then ultimately 6-7 years down the road, then you have to go in the blend. So, but that's our game. That's what it takes.
And that's one thing I've always known. But all right. So you've done this whole process, and you're producing. What was the biggest surprise to you that you didn't? What was there anything that you weren't expecting that happened that it was just you were like, well, that's different than what I thought.
You mean with the new facility or just in general over time?
In general, in the whole process, I mean.
I think the biggest challenge on the oak side, the education on oak, it's been interesting, and the amount of variables and flavors that are impacted in the final product by that. And it's been a true education, and it's through trial and error, and it's also through the partners that we work with and them educating us and stuff. You just don't understand how many variables there are on that side. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So most people are like, it's just a char 4. It isn't just a char 4. There's a ton of stuff that you got to make decisions on to make sure that product is where it needs to be. And sometimes it costs more to do the things you want to do, and that's okay because our goal is to make the best possible product we can down the road, let it age out, and compete. And I think that the surprise happens over time on the barreling because you don't actually find out for years. So you can see, you track it, you take it, you taste it, you pull samples and whatnot.
Right.
Color changes, temperature changes in warehouses, all that stuff, how much it affects the finished good, but ultimately, how was the wood treated? How was it air dried? How was it kiln dried? All of these things that are massive. Where was it grown? Huge factors. We're very fortunate that we have Speyside. It's just down the road. Speyside Cooper. You guys have wonderful place. Wonderful place. So it's been a massive education over the last 6-7 years as they've grown and we've grown together. They've helped us out tremendously to increase our knowledge base on making the right decisions for our stuff, not for today, for the new plant, but I'm talking 10 years down the road. And we've made a lot of those decisions. So there's far more on that side than I would have ever imagined when we started. Because you got good brewing, you can learn the distillation, you can make good still product, but then there's a whole other variable that has so many factors to it that you just can't understand.
So Greg Schneider was the head of the cooperage for Brown and Foreman for 8 years. Okay, so when he came in and started his brand, he was telling us that he got the Great Midwest Barrel Company. He told them how to do it, but they were pulling the oak off the shade side of the mountain for his barrels, and he was getting more rings, and he'll get into tyloses, and he gets into all the different, shades of how to do it, and then he handpicked all the staves for 600 barrels every single time for like 3 years, and then he would have it seasoned. I think he went with it was 11 months or whatever seasoning. He said that's like whatever, and he needed the barrels, but then he was toasting it. He'd have him just put a toast on it, then the char, then, so he really taught us about that. And he thinks 80% to 90% of the flavor comes from the barrel.
Yeah,
now,
I've heard that fact.
But in the same sense, as you know, at 3 and 4 years, the barrel is influencing it, but not as much as like when you get into the 7, 8 years, then the influence really starts to pick up. And it's great, unless it's not. Now, I've heard so much.
We've had a lot of that. So we learned
Just
well,
so
I'll just go throw out, 25-year-old Crown Apple. I mean, why are you apple flavoring 25-year-old Canadian whiskey? Because guess what? It needed apple, and then they sold it for $250 a bottle, and it worked. So
it sold out.
yeah. So if you're Crown, that's one thing you can do, right? But but that's the same thing. It's like, as you know, when you start to understand, you understand why people do stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why big guys have flavored whiskey.
Yeah.
Because people like to drink it, and they can get it there quicker.
Well, when you get to volumes, when you get to real volumes at the larger facilities, it's hard to manage all of the variables because it's just so much. The volumes are crazy. You can't go to, Joe Farmer and say, I want you to do this. It's normally going through commodity brokers because the volumes are just tremendous. It's the same on the oak side. It's like, it's just too much. You can't hand pick out of that mountain, out of that. But it is an important variable because on the shady side of the mountain, the trees are going to grow slower. So you have more rings, you have a smaller tree. It takes longer time for that tree to mature before you harvest it. So your tannins and millings are different than something that was on the sunny side. And then something that grows in Missouri versus something that grows in Ohio, they're going to be a lot larger than our trees in a shorter period of time. So it changes the variables of what comes out of the oak too. Right? We're lucky that a lot of harvested barrels come from Ohio. We're very fortunate that it's right here. But then, we can go and we can hand select and say, we need it to be this. We need these seasonal air dries, all this type of stuff. But yeah,
and you've grown with them. That's the key.
They taught us a lot. So we're very, like I said, we're very lucky they're here. And the guys there, they teach our guys. So when we coop for leak detection and all that stuff, they take our staff down there and they show us how to fix barrels and stuff. So it's a real partner, and that is the side that when I started, it was like, okay, it was an afterthought. It's just a barrel.
Well, yeah, but that's the greatest part about the whiskey industry, in my opinion, is that the partnerships and the people that are behind helping you. It's not, you're not partnering with a barrel. You're partnering with people who make barrels that care, and everybody seems to be so. Well, we still don't make enough whiskey. We're getting close, but still. That everybody seems to be very open. I mean, sharing of employees to some extent or whatever, but overall, it's like how many beans came out of Jim Beam and had to go be master distillers everywhere because Jim Beam could only have one. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's like it's such a unique industry. That's what I find. It's just like now you're doing it at a bigger level. And I guarantee you, when you're dealing at the real big corporate level, a lot of business but when you were dealing at the smaller level, at the craft level, it had to be a little bit more, less industrial, right?
Yeah, it can be, it can stay that way if you choose it to go that way. It is more expensive to stay that way, especially when you build larger facilities. It becomes ridiculously more efficient and more automated and things like that. But you can still have the hand touches, as you saw today. We have a guy that sits outside of the still house every hour. He's there running samples all day long to make sure that what comes off the beer well through the still can be as good as it should be. And that's just part of our thing. That's the hand touch that we do. So there are ways to take those industrial processes and add more of the craft feel to them.
Oh, yeah.
You just have to put that in as just your SOP.
But you also have to do what you've done to know what the craft feel is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, honestly, when people were talking about automation, how it's changing it. Because it used to be they had to do all the pressures by hand, and someone would forget, and then it would burn or whatever, and it would be different, and a lot of stuff was hard to take. But that allows consistency. But I've always felt that now that you give an artist, and that's what I believe whiskey makers are, the controls.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to take that control. It's like giving Andy Warhol a computer. He didn't make the standard computer art. He did all this creative stuff that nobody else was doing at the time. You know, same thing. When you have that control, that allows you to get levels further down the line that was almost impossible to get when you were using the hand type thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes things faster, more repeatable, and things like that. It doesn't mean you still don't have those old technologies. And they have, instead of a thermal well that's like a visual thermal well, you have a digital thermal well that's telling the computer, hey, this is in a bad spot, or hey, I'm in a good spot. So you still have all of that, but you can still have those old principles applied. It's just your standards and how you want to distill.
I mean, now digitally you have, when you do a cook, they hit all the numbers. It's not measuring and whatever, and you know those numbers are being hit because you can program them in and be consistent that way. Whereas in the old days, you know, they were taking temperatures, they hit the numbers, and when you were home sleeping, somebody might not be hitting those numbers. You know, you just don't know. You hope so, but it's like the control that you have now is phenomenal to making, in my opinion, great whiskey in places like yours and the other where I see a lot. They do produce some really, really good stuff. So.
Yeah, automation is critical for repeatability, and you know it's doesn't allow too much variability. And I would suspect back in the days, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, when you didn't have a lot of that stuff, you had more variability. But it also, the fun part about that is you take the variability off of distillate, put it in the barrels with variability, you have wide swings in what comes out of the warehouses. So way more stuff to play with.
So many strict rules, but yet billions of variables. Sometimes, I mean, it's just like, where did you get your yeast straight? You know, that you hear all the old stories. They predicted that yeast like it was like everything to them because that's what they felt was of their flavor profile and everything. And it's still to this day, but how you do it consistently. And you know, you're relying on a actual living thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, good old Forster, what do you smell immediately?
Bananas. Yep.
You know that's their yeast. So it's just that's what you got. You know, ours on our whiskeys, you get apricot from our whiskey. That's what you get, and I can tell right away. Normally, I can tell even if a larger brand is making something else. Like a lot of people are trying to get in single malt, like a lot of the big guys. You can tell the yeast. You can smell it right off the product. So yeah, it's with the new facility and with the other facility, you know, there are controls in place that just make sure that the product long term is what it needs to be.
All right, so we're talking about the product, and we're starting to get into some longer term products.
We are.
So,
Yeah. So we're getting up close to the 6 range, which is what we're, you know, our base we want to get to, and again we've had to grow into that over time. We've not been blending other material in ours, so it's as straight as it can be. So as our stock has grown and as the age has increased, we're able to get up to levels that we're very happy about it. And much like we like how Mictors does their aging profile. because they give them Victors and so on and so forth. And Knob does that too. They do a very good job of highlighting 9, 11, 13, 14, right? I like that pathway. Some guys will just change the brand. They'll be like, okay, it'll be this brand at 6, it'll be this at 8, it'll be this at 10, it'll be this at 15. That's great because it creates more SKUs on brands, and I understand that. Our path has always been to keep the Midwest as the parent, and then as they grow up, we'll slap a big 10 on the front. We'll slap a 14 on the front. We're just not there yet. So, but it is growing pretty good. So why don't I hand these out to you? This is the cash strength. I'll give you the rye first. So we'll put this.
The pumpernickel rye.
Yep, that's right. The pumpernickel rye. We'll do that one. We'll put that on. Let's just do it this way.
I've always.
Yeah, so this is 125.3 proof too. So I did give you some water drops if you want to open it up. I usually don't.
Well, sometimes.
You like the
What?
You like the high proof. Yeah. When you drink,
But it's my liver might not want it as much, but yeah, when you drink as much and taste, I mean, I don't know. I still have a really good palate for lower proof stuff.
Yeah.
But when people talk about the main difference is the body of a higher proof. You're just going to get full mouthful feel, and I sometimes feel that if it gets too much, and it doesn't matter what you're high proof, but if you get too much, sometimes sometimes you get too much pepper in there or whatever, and then all of a sudden it defeats the purpose. So that's when you could use a little bit of. But for the most part, most of the high proof that I drink.
and we don't do barrel strength per se. We do cask strength. Okay, so barrel. There's some regulations around barrel proof. You can actually add some water.
It's much better for 2 drops.
Yeah, it opens up
Two
quite a bit.
That's damn.
But you
That's
still get the nice.
so
but
your dark pumpernickel
it's
rye.
more taste, you get more of a flavor.
It takes rye to it. In my opinion, it's not a classic rye to me.
No.
Where one, it reminds me more of what you were saying with the Victors, because there's lots of the caramels, and there's the rye spice there.
That's there.
But I'm getting no dill. I get none of that.
There's a little bit of floral. There's a lot of caramel.
A caramel and maybe a little bit of mint,
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
like a menthol.
Yeah.
But
On the finish for sure.
But this-
It's a little-
it's like at least this goes into and it was, but that I haven't had that, and this really goes into a rye that I like, which is about 2% of all ryes.
Yeah. It's a rye baking spice, so it's the dark rye. And it's 80% of that rye. It's 10% of our non-GMO
Toast?
3.
Char?
Char 3 and a toast.
There's a toast.
There's a toast.
I just picked
Yeah, there's a toast and a char 3, and then we've got
the toast is really coming out on this one.
yeah, it started opening up quite a bit. Yeah.
Wow.
As it ages out, it's really coming forward. So, I will tell you that all of these moving forward are all in a toasted barrel. So these are the things that we've learned over time that we like.
Well, don't you agree the toasted barrel addition?
Taste mine with 2 drops of water. Because a lot more of the baking,
Yeah, you
the
get the bacon
warm
spice.
baking spice comes out.
So yeah, that's the pumpernickel. It's doing really well, and
I'm not lying. Compared to the other pumpernickel, which I enjoy, but like I said, most of the time when I go downstairs, I have so many bourbons that rye does not usually enter into what I'm picking.
Yeah.
But seriously, this would be one of 2 that I would consider drinking.
It's very good.
That's delicious. That's actually for me, my palate, everybody, that's right there where I'm like, you gotta pull this one off the shelf. This one is good.
now this one
Thank
will probably surprise you a little. Most people are not doing wheat whiskeys, but one of the first things that we started back in 08, 09 was we started working on wheat profile, and Ohio does wheat very well. All of our grains are in the Ohio River Valley. It's one of the things.
What, is it a summer wheat, winter wheat?
This is the soft red winter wheat. We make a lot. We didn't for a while. The wheat production is back up quite a bit in Ohio. So we have access to some pretty good wheat and also some pretty good areas where it grows. The northern part of Ohio is, it's got a lot of clay packed soil. The southern part's sandy. So depending upon where we get it, it has a different flavor off the still, but you won't get banana fermentation.
Oh, so I've had your wheat in your top of the line. I have to, and I love wheat whiskey. There's no doubt about it. And I'm expecting the toast.
Yeah.
You can give it toast.
Nose wise,
Yeah, we'll flip over the bourbon.
I mean, so do you have plans for the 15-year stuff at one point? Like, you know what I mean? Where I think like when you're talking about a wheat bourbon, 10 to 15 years is the sweet spot, like, especially when you're talking like a pack.
15 to 17 for us.
15, 17.
Yeah, that's
Is when you think that's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll eventually get there.
Because I've had just one time pack 20, and it's too much for me. Too much oak.
Yeah, I mean,
No, the 15 is like, and the 12 or it's like
15 is my favorite. 15 is my favorite. And Booker's 17 is one of my favorites. I think that range is really good. I think rye can peak around 8 to 10, but rye particularly. But bourbon can get up there. It can do well. See, that's opening.
next time I come down.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's nice. So that's a sipper for us. That's the wheat whiskey, and not a lot of people are making it, so we're trying to make as much as we can. As a category, it's just a decent category right now in the whiskey market, but there's opportunity. But obviously, single malt's starting to pick up steam in the United States, so we'll see what happens with the. But this one is going to be fun long term. This also.
Like I said, that's only gonna get better.
This one also lends.
So what does that fall into a single malt category? No, it's just wheat with its own category, which is very.
The only, Journeyman, I know does a really nice wheat product.
What was MGP? MGP had some that Old Elk
They did.
bought it all up
Yeah.
and put that up, and that was a nice. But I know that they bought it all.
Yeah, so this is, it just keeps going. It's very different than the rye.
Look what it does. Look at that is probably the best legs I've ever seen. Look at top to bottom, straight up and thick. Look at that.
Very well.
So is that one thing you have to deal with when you're the oil, the actual consistent, like, or is it easy to distill?
Well, we do, our distillates have a ton of oil. When they come out, they're very, very viscous. You can see.
So I'm not going to ask you that question.
Yeah.
I won't. Because I obviously that's something that you've learned over the years.
Yeah.
And you're not sharing that. But I will say that what is the distillate taste like off your wheat whiskey off your still? You know, you had the apricots. It's obviously
So it's.
really
It is
even
vanilla.
sweeter.
It's just pure vanilla. First pure vanilla.
So you feel like sometimes you're making rum?
It's not that sweet. It's a vanilla, so it's not a sugar. It's more of a vanilla sweetness.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy, and this is a 3 toast as well. So try a little 3 toast.
But it definitely doesn't have too
Boy.
much oak on it.
No, it's not a lot of.
And this is how many years?
It's almost 6.
Almost 6.
So yeah, if I sit today,
What I love about your cast strength is you're getting on this one. You get the big Kentucky cast strength oak aspect. There's always that. What I pick up like from a rare breed or Booker's. There's a certain flavor underneath. Booker's might pick up pecan, peanuts, and then you got the Jim Beam thing. But this underneath there is of that cast strength. Now, you taste that, right?
Oh yeah.
That's phenomenal. I love that we're doing this in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's never been done in Ohio.
There's, well, prior to Prohibition, there's a lot of them.
Right.
Lots.
There was a lot done in the whole United States, but, you know,
It's almost like some dark fruit, but not like cherry, more like.
that's a great, okay, so one of the things why I like wheat
Yeah.
was, why is because the grain still will stay forward for you. You pick up the vanillas, you pick up that thing, but you still can taste the toasted, it's almost like a toasted wheat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas when you get into bourbons, a lot of times the wheat flavor can get lost, especially as you get the age on it.
Now this is the Michael bourbon is a combination of the two plus a bigger corn bill. So this is what you just had off the stove today. So very, very, very,
exciting.
very, very soft. About 6 years old.
So do you,
Oily as hell.
in some case, well, as far as your mash bills, are you open or are you closed? Okay,
So this is 63, 19, 13, 5. 63 corn, 19 wheat, 13. I think I'm doing the math correct. 13 rye and 5 barley.
so this is a 4
I hope I'm not going like 1 or 2.
and I love 4 grains. I think
This one is, I cannot, we're very happy with what it's doing now.
there.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. But it's unbelievably soft, and at 122.2 proof, you can just, unfortunately, or fortunately, you can just
okay.
take it right down. So
Yeah,
you
you
gotta
don't
be
need to
careful.
put anything
You've evolved
Wow.
this to second level.
in.
This is
That's lovely.
another level,
That's lovely,
and this is still
Spicy.
this
Yeah.
is still,
but not,
and so
but not
it's
super hot, it's
I
not
don't feel
roasting
it
it,
anywhere.
no.
it excites me so much that you're in control of this distillery here, plus still doing what you're doing over there. But this is what you've done over there, obviously.
This is from over there.
Yes, and
I will say what this reminds me of, other things like that. You can, when you drink it, you'll say, oh yeah, that's
well,
similar to what.
it's obvious what
We get comparisons to a lot of larger brands with this, yeah.
So-
We
so-
hear-
I don't
I've
want to.
talked. Well, put it this way.
Because it's.
You should be getting comparisons because, so I've dealt with a lot of pot distillers and smaller craft distilleries, and they'll have a unique flavor. Like when I was dealing with Alan, a lot of his stuff has an Indiana, I call it an Indiana funk or an Indiana aspect. And realistically, if you're the spirit of French Lick, why would you want to compete against the Kentucky distilleries? They do it really well. That you Indiana is the thing for craft. Yeah, that's right. So it makes sense.
Very much
Okay.
alive.
But what you're doing here and what you've done here, you're right there with them all. And honestly, the viscosity on there, we're not talking about your high-end stuff. This is your cast strength, right off of, this is whatever your base thing. And you could almost be doing this with, it's right up there, actually, with those small batches that they put out, which is nuts, I understand.
And I'm glad we got the opportunity to taste some white dark flavors because that's.
You can see this from.
Yes, now.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
see, it's just, it comes off the still and it doesn't have a lot of the heavy fusels,
No, it
but
doesn't.
it has a lot of heavy fusels, but yet it's still oily.
It's still oily. Mhm.
Well, it's obvious, like I said, I'm here
But
because,
it's a huge body, I mean, people like.
Yes,
big body.
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on everywhere. Yeah, size of your cheek, size of the tongue, front of the tongue, back of the tongue.
Yeah, it
That's a
gives
lot
me-
going
gives me
on.
chills
That's a
every
big
time. Like, it's just to see where it's going. Like,
It's gonna be even better.
because I
in a
know,
few
I
years.
know what our long term
I'm
is.
excited.
We're in a good spot. Just, keep going.
Mhm.
well,
Like I said, I can't miss
I've
it.
always been on
It's always so
board.
good.
and I've always liked your whiskey, okay?
Mhm.
But
From the very first.
you just took me, it's almost like I'm rarely speechless, but this
Yeah,
is
it could
fantastic.
literally be in my top 5.
Thank you. No,
And that's up against the big guys.
Yeah, we like.
Well, put it in, well, here, they always ask you,
Go to the store and get some.
they always ask you, what would you, if you could only take, you're gonna get stuck on an island, but you could choose what you wanna bring? I'm bringing this. And this is, and you could probably,
Bring what you can carry, Debbie.
so you could probably put me, you could, at one point, you could put me up on
Where, some whiskey,
island.
some
But
bourbon.
a lot of the stuff that you talk about is always the lesser, the stuff that's not made where it would be even hard to supply a lifetime supply to somebody, whatever on it. But you know, we're talking, but in this case, I could get on that island and you could be sending it to me all along and have no problem because you're making it. And
So what I like is.
you should be opening this up so that you can share this much with the rest of the world because this is something different and special. And then when you get into the 10 and 15 and you're putting that out, it's just gonna be, it'll be
Oh,
crazy.
yeah, big body bourbon, long finish, lots of
Does he know?
flavor.
What's that?
Does he know?
To what he's doing?
To what, who you are, and to what,
Now,
do you realize?
I'm just the annoying dad.
We're just,
What is he, like,
we're just
9?
gonna, yeah,
Yeah,
no, they don't, but damn.
they're consumed in their own little world.
Mario, or whatever he's on there now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
they don't see outside their scope for a couple more years.
the biggest thing for us is always how do we develop complexities that it goes everywhere. That pumpernickel was very
That's
challenging to do.
delicious, yeah, no,
Like
that's,
this is a calling to Ohio. This is very Ohio.
Yeah.
This is what Ohio does very well. Believe it or not, we make a lot of the corn that goes down the road to a lot of the guys down in Kentucky and Tennessee, which has been fortunate for us because we have had access to a lot of that raw material, which, you know, they have perfected for years in what they're buying, and we take that and we work with it. So we're very lucky to be where we are, but, you know, it's, there's a lot of people that do a lot of work on this
Yeah.
here, like our brewers, like our distillers, our plant managers.
And now you have a serious lab, right? I mean, at the lab can be where you pulling and you're pulling samples and everybody's doing. But I want to stress this is although it's a 4 grain, it's considered a wheat bourbon, a wheated bourbon,
Mhm.
right? Which is
But a very
yes,
nice
it is.
balance of all 4.
But I will also stress you said soft winter red.
Soft winter.
Red winter, which is, I believe, what Maker's Mark uses, correct?
I don't know. I think
Yeah, I
maybe,
think
maybe, I'm not sure.
it is. I think it's just,
It is?
yeah, it's a soft red winter. Yes. And
So yeah, you just spoil it.
but honestly, but then that's grown here in Ohio, correct? Yes, and that's gonna terrible.
There you go.
Yes, I mean honestly, Scotch gets into so much of that. It's grown on the ocean, or it's grown, all their barley. They can because they grow barley everywhere, and it's like it matters.
But
And
there's much more body to
Oh.
this than.
yes, and this has its own
Yes.
deliciousness, and I'm going to tell you, I've never seen something look that in your blend, the legs. So
Is right.
I would have to all 3 of them. The body, if I was barrel aging this, you can give it the body you can give up to a 4, but then you can give it an extra one, and it gets the extra one, and not often.
Extra.
I mean, it fills your mouth and everything, but it just does such great viscosity in your glass, and like you said, the oily aspect of it. But it's not like people, when you're drinking it, it just makes a great mouthfeel. You don't coat your mouth like it's creamy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's we're happy with the path so far. We're excited for what it's going to be.
That's very good.
Anything else you want to add as far as?
It's good seeing you guys. I mean, I know you're trying to catch up. I'm just sorry.
That's all right.
So now at your other place, you have all your swag and everything there, and people can stop by. Now you're here, you're distilling, not yet open for.
Yeah, here's processing, distillate, here is packaging, and then offices, and then long term, we'll have developed the rest of the site, the rest of the acreage here into more hospitality. So that's coming. That just is gonna take a little bit more time in development. So.
It does. You have this, but you've walked around. We walked around and put that out, and if you've seen some of the videos, the space is there. They have all the space. It's like, and you know, their location is spectacular. You just get off 70.
Yeah, I said it was right.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right by.
They were gonna put a big-
Although I don't
big
know-
middle west side of the-
I don't know. I don't know why. Waze took me off an exit 4. I'm like, wait, does it just get off there?
No, it does. It does something strange. It circles you back around.
Yeah,
Shit,
it's like
just take this exit. We literally have a light off I-70.
Yeah, you make a right in here. You go
Go straight in.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, I don't get up. Well, okay. Took me through the terroir of the area.
Oh, we thoroughly enjoyed their maple
That was a
syrup.
nice way to put it.
It was very
Their
nice.
aged maple syrup with breakfast, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of good stuff too.
Yeah, we try to,
Even if you
try to
don't drink
please.
bourbon.
I'll tell you what, like maple syrup, that bourbon barrel sits.
Oh, it's delicious.
so good.
It's one of the best.
It sits in the cask for over 9 months.
It's
to a
fantastic.
year. The casks just start bleeding.
Yes, it's
the
fantastic.
maple just goes right through the sleeve. So, but yeah, it's very nice. We gotta make another batch of it though, but man, it makes a hell of a mess. So.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you were saying that. All right.
We must have bought a couple bottles because we're still working.
So we're gonna end the podcast on the audio. Thanks everybody for joining us. Remember, good bourbon equals good times and good friends. We're not ending it on Facebook or YouTube yet, so I will do that right after. But remember, live your life
Uncut,
and
unfiltered.
but drink responsibly and don't drink it dry. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening and coming in. So that's stuff. So the weirdest thing, I had the Alabama song, which I always do as, and I had a guy. So initially I had it with Jim Morrison, and then PMG Records or whatever started, like whatever. So early on, I had a local artist do a cover of it, and it's a cover in itself. So the last podcast, YouTube said, and PMG's like trying to tell me that the Doors have the what? And I'm like, no,
It's not the Doors.
So all of a sudden,
It's a- Yes, yes, the record
yeah,
group
So
is coming after us
I was like,
for
are
a
you-
local.
So I had to dispute it, and then they're like, well, if you dispute it on whatever, then you could get kicked off YouTube. I'm like, no, this is not. You can't. The song was written in German initially, then rewritten for a musical in 1927 by Heinz whatever, and then the Doors picked it up and did the cover. So my guy that I know did it, and he's got synthesizers and everything, but his voice is really good.
It sounds exactly
So
like
when I'm
Jim
listening to
Morrison.
headphones, sometimes it's like, did I put on but I know. So all of a
I
sudden
think
there's-
that's why they're flagging it,
So I
because
had
it
to
sounds so
dispute it
much
because,
like
I
Morrison.
mean, you can't like dispute it. You can't own it a cover of a cover.
It's not yours.
It's not, wasn't his in the first place. Now they're like, you gotta do this, this, and that. So maybe I do that, but at the same time, I didn't play it for this one because I really don't feel like
Dealing with
it until they got it under control. But I feel bad for the guy that does our local stuff at Chavasi, and he did it for me. He did a fantastic job, and I always put it up there and promote him. But for right now, I'm gonna back it off. But you know what it's like to all of a sudden get somebody just out of nowhere.
I've had it happen many times.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's end YouTube and Facebook. Thanks, everybody. All right, we're off of YouTube.
I will let you
I'll
do
hit
it
that.
because I don't know how to do it.
All right, you just hit that.